Welcome back to my channel. Looks like the internet's gossip twins are at it again, and believe it or not, I'll actually be defending regular guy, even though he's being victimized by the same gossip tactics he uses himself. But wrong is wrong, even if someone deserves the karma. The gossip comes from the Philippine Antics channel. Again. Let's start off with what apparently they think justifies their gossip and assumptions.
I want to make it clear that this is still an entertainment channel.
For gossips, it isn't so much about entertaining others, besides other gossips. It's more like it is their way of entertaining themselves at the expense of others, as you will see. The focus of their live stream was a Filipina who had a baby while living with a white Westerner, but someone else was the father. Okay, not a good situation, but it just serves as an example of the risks in a relationship. The real problem was how they kept talking about who the real father was, and it got really crazy. Before getting into that, let me point out a basic fact using an example. Imagine someone being mugged, and you were just a block away and saw a black kid wearing a hoodie running down the street. It would be 100% wrong to accuse the black kid of doing the mugging. If evidence later shows he did, the original assumption was still unethical at the time it was made, as it would just be an assumption based on racism. Now, let's look at some of the craziness.
We put who the suspect is because we've received about 30 emails and messages stating a possibility of a father. This ain't even a joke.
Wow, they have 30 emails from people that they have no way of knowing if they are telling the truth. I say that is a joke, a perverted one, but they don't stop there.
We're going to throw regular guy into the mix that he was in that area.
Like dedicated gossips, George and Heidi throw in regular guy as a possible father to the child. I mean, everyone knows the more assumptions you make, the more factual it must be.
As I'm to understand on the sly, Daddy, regular guy, according to emails, is paying child support. Honestly, we even got a few emails. They said Tim K slipped out of town. And George goes, well, we already got regular guy in there and got a lot of emails. I said, put his photo in there too. They both dipped out of town at the same time.
Well, at least they are consistent in their nonsense. According to emails, again, they just base it on what other gossips say, and by definition, as well as basic biology, they can't all be right, but they can all be wrong. And note they added another possible father, Tim K, based on nothing more than he has moved to the United States during this general time period.
I ain't even joking about regular guy in that area. Remember how he went on his road trip and then gave up X amount of time ago? I know he does, but that's how come I'm like, oh, wait a minute. He does like them province girls. And he does travel a lot. I said, hey, I still got to put him in there, whether it looks jokey or not. I said, that's regular guy or that's Tim K's baby. It looks more like Tim K though. Hell, we even said that might even be Mark Thornton's baby.
They aren't joking? If they were joking, it still would be unethical, just as it was when regular guy gossiped about Tim K being released from jail. But Heidi doesn't even have that excuse. I do love it how Heidi says, I still got to put him in there, whether it looks jokey or not. No. She didn't have to do any such thing. She just wanted to. It's what gossips do. And isn't it amazing how they've added another person to the possibilities when they included Mark Thornton? Hey, no reason to stop with smearing one person when you can do so to many. It gets your channel more attention, all in the name of entertainment, or just gossip. It just keeps going.
Black Grandma says, I'm more interested in knowing who the real father is and if he'll make an appearance.
Regular guy. I'm serious. We did get that many emails, but that's probably just trolls. But I still got to mention, he was traveling during that time. That's all I got to say. And Tim K went out of town.
Oh, they seriously got lots of email, the preferred proof of gossips. And even though Heidi recognizes that they are probably just trolls, she says she's still got to mention it after presenting it as a fact.
Well, they're saying the dude that showed up exactly in the time frame of conception to birth is named Ken.
Another one. It's like dealing with children. After all those examples, this next part takes a lot of nerve. George says,
The ones who are lying, who claim we're lying, first off, again, I repeat, these are not our words. Okay, me and Heidi don't say things unless these are things stated by the YouTubers themselves. Keep in mind, these are YouTubers.
Well, or if we say there's been about 30 people that contacted us and said they've seen regular guy and heard rumors, we said it's for entertainment.
That's a child's excuse. If you repeat what someone else says and act like it is true, then you are just as guilty as if you started the gossip. As I said at the start, perhaps one of these people will, in fact, turn out to be guilty. And maybe not. Either way, at this point in time, the accusations and insinuations are completely unethical. Then we get this weird rant from George.
You don't have the right to talk crap about American women if you haven't actually lived in the U.S. I'm not talking about as a visitor. I'm not talking about as a freaking tourist. That doesn't count. I'm talking about an actual living, eating, breathing, working class Filipina that lived in the U.S. You do not have the right to judge American women. First off, you don't have the right to judge anyone at all, first of all. But however, be aware, you especially don't have the right to judge a completely different race, a completely different culture that you actually never lived in, that you actually never lived with.
First, the obvious. You absolutely do have the right to criticize American women. They aren't off limits. And considering the smear job Heidi and George are doing on multiple people, they aren't in a position to criticize anyone else for making judgments. It's especially weird since George said you don't have the right to judge anyone at all during a stream where they are judging like crazy. And this isn't the first time, is it? Second, common sense should tell you that you can make perfectly reasonable responses to someone from a different country. If a woman from, say, Germany declares that all men are toxic, any woman or man can understand enough to respond. Before making a third point, let's hear from Jordan Peterson.
So if I'm listening to you, there'll be times when what you're saying doesn't make sense. And so then I'll just say, well, you're saying this now, but you said this 5 minutes ago. And if you listen a lot, you can learn to track conversations across a very long span of time. And that's quite fun. You said this, but then you said this, and they seem contradictory to me.
This supports my third point, because I remember the many times Heidi and George have said things like, women are women everywhere. Well, if that is true, George's claim above is bogus. Work on that consistency thing, George. Then Heidi, who will tell you that she's not jealous, just has to make an issue about the Filipina P. Actually, Heidi has to flat out make stuff up.
Unless you're the Filipina P and you know everything in advance, and then you have an American guy feeding your scripts and hanging out with people. And then the stupidest thing you've done lately is compared Philippines in America to, or Jollibees in America to Jollibees in the Philippines because you're running out of content.
Nothing shows P has an American guy feeding her scripts. That gossip has been around from the start. We do know P has said she does her own scripts, and I'm pretty sure P would know. Since Heidi claims otherwise, that can only mean Heidi is calling P a liar, with no proof at all. And Miss I'm Not Jealous, Heidi, makes an issue of a perfectly legitimate video P made where she compared Jollibees in the US to those in the Philippines, claiming it means she's running out of content. Granted, when you are a cheap gossip, you never run out of content, though it tends to get repetitious and always unethical. But there is nothing wrong with P's topic. Speaking for myself, when P first visited the US, I was hoping she would visit a Jollibees. You see, I found a couple near me, and I was curious as to whether eating there would be the same as in the Philippines. Now I know. Apparently Heidi doesn't care about that topic. Fine, don't watch. But others do care. Good thing Heidi isn't jealous, or she might exhibit symptoms that she is. Then George continues with his nonsense.
As a Filipino woman or girl, I would say girl, only because that's really immature of you to judge American women.
It's not immature to react to what someone actually says, regardless of the country they are from. However, it is childish to gossip for hours and smear a bunch of different people for being the father of the same child. Also very stupid, biologically speaking. George has more.
Now, for those guys who are like, what are you talking about, George? You're saying that American women aren't this. Well, guess what?
George has had his turn.
Did you want American women Filipino women to judge American guys? You think that's right too? That they've never lived? Filipino men judge American guys that they've never lived in the U.S.?
I don't care if a Filipino wants to give their view of American men. Why should I? If I think they misunderstand something because of a cultural difference, I'm happy to discuss it. It's how real discussion works. But wait, it's going to get even crazier.
They're sinners. No. They're not going to sit down at Jesus' supper.
Huh? I thought George said no one should be judged. That's some heavy-duty judging right there, deciding who Jesus would sit down with. That conflicts with what we know the Bible teaches on that very subject. And what about George and Heidi's sin of spreading gossip? I've pointed out parts in both Christianity and Islam in the past where their holy books condemn gossip. This next part is weird too, with Heidi talking about how that Filipino woman was acting about the situation with who was the father.
It seems like she was happy about it.
She did. She not only was making odd faces the whole video.
Go back and watch the clips again of George and Heidi smearing all those men. They'll sometimes be laughing their butts off. But then, gossips tend to enjoy spreading gossip. I'm just fascinated by the double standard. Heidi then asks which we prefer on a channel.
So which do you want to watch? Me giving like harsh truths and going through and picking on your channel or saying something to you? Or would you rather watch these channels that are simplifying for you, aka the Filipina P that just smooths most things over, or these channels that go through and they're like, oh my God, get this rent like this, and look at me driving here, and look at the food that I got going on here, and look at my nice place.
Well, gossip isn't truth, so that rules that part out. And then another shot from I'm Not Jealous Heidi, that P's channel is simplifying and smoothing things over. I guess that means Heidi thinks P is covering up the negatives in the Philippines. But P has lots of videos covering the negatives. P just isn't a nasty gossip while doing it. Just another false claim by Heidi. As for the comparison to channels that show where people are living, traveling, eating, etc., I don't like those either. I call them diary channels, and they almost always bore me to death. And Antics Channel's live streams waste a huge amount of time. But some people clearly like these other formats. And you know what? My preferences don't determine what others may enjoy. As long as the channel isn't lying about someone else, people can do what they like, and I don't care. Then we have Heidi, once again, making an issue out of what P wears, first referring to what that pregnant woman showed in a video, and then goes after P.
I mean, what was the point of showing yourself almost totally nude when you were that pregnant, showing your body off like that pregnant, and then you said you don't want, like you shouldn't be judged and all that. You put yourself out there, honey. It's like when the Filipina P puts out these, simp sexual things and all that, and then later she'll say, well, this troll was messing with me, and this person was doing this, and then you hear other channels. It's because of what you did.
P does skits at the end of her videos. She has a lot of them. Some have sexy outfits, just like you could see on the old Johnny Carson Tonight Show or the primetime Carol Burnett Show, as I've documented before. And sometimes P uses double entendres, just as is done in many comedy shows. They are skits. Get a grip, Heidi, or people might think you're jealous. And what is that crap about P responding to trolls, whining about them messing with her? P almost never refers to other channels. Why the need for Heidi to lie? One other thing you've seen me document about the Antics channel before.
This is a live stream. I challenge you to do a live stream like this, period.
So it's a live stream. They are a dime a dozen. Lots of people do live streams, and I've heard some of them say they are the easiest things they do. I have no doubt that some who don't do live streams certainly could if they wanted. For example, we've seen the Filipina P do 3 long live streams in about the first 10 days of starting her channel. She did just fine. But she prefers to carefully prepare her videos, which takes far more work, just like major network news anchors work from a script. So what? Then there are people like me who, as you can see explained in my 3rd video, have speaking issues that, while not preventing doing live streams, they do make it a poor choice. In short, making a big deal about doing a live stream is no more impressive than saying you can walk 2 miles. Many people do. Many can, but choose not to. And some minority of people have physical reasons they can't, or which at least discourage them from doing so. Stop the gossip. Thanks for watching, and don't let the trolls stop you from speaking out.